The water is almost silent. Only the slow rhythm of your breathing breaks to stillness as sunlight fractures into pale blue ribbons beneath the surface. Then, without warning, the ocean changes. The fish disappear. Even the seals seem to vanish. A shadow emerges from below. Not fast, not aggressive, just enormous. Black, white, effortless. An orca. It doesn't rush toward you. It doesn't circle. It doesn't display its teeth. Instead, it slows, turning one dark eye toward you with a level of composure that feels almost impossible for a predator weighing 6 tons. For a brief moment, the two of you simply exist in the same world. Then, it leaves. Most people believed this was luck. The evidence suggests something far stranger. Chapter 1. The Predator That Should Be Feared. If evolution had designed the perfect hunter, it would look remarkably similar to an orca. Nearly 10 meters long, muscles built for explosive speed, intelligence rivaling the great apes, a social structure complex enough to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. Unlike sharks, which rely heavily on instinct, orcas learn, they teach, they remember. Entire families develop hunting traditions that persist for decades. Some pods specialize in catching salmon. Others patrol coastlines waiting for seals. Some deliberately create waves powerful enough to wash resting seals off floating ice. Researchers have even documented pods coordinating attacks on whales several times their own size. Each individual takes on a role. Some exhaust the mother. Others separate the calf. Every movement appears planned long before the attack begins. It resembles less a feeding frenzy and more a military operation. There's a reason marine biologists often describe orcas as apex predators, not because they are the strongest, but because almost nothing hunts them. They sit at the very top of the food web, yet hidden within that title is a contradiction. The ocean contains millions of people every year. Divers, swimmers, surfers, sailors, spearfishers. To an orca, a human floating alone should represent the easiest prey imaginable. Slow, poorly adapted to water, unable to escape, and completely defenseless. Yet, across decades of observation from wild populations around the globe, there is not a single confirmed case of a healthy wild orca deliberately hunting and killing a human for food. For an animal capable of bringing down blue whale calves, that absence is almost impossible to ignore. Chapter 2. A mystery that shouldn't exist. The first explanation sounded simple. Perhaps humans taste bad. Perhaps our bodies are too bony. Perhaps our shape confuses them. Each theory sounds reasonable. None survives careful examination. Orcas consume prey with wildly different body shapes. Seals, penguins, sharks, rays, dolphins, fish, even massive whales whose anatomy shares almost nothing in common. Their diet is astonishingly flexible. In fact, different populations can live only a few hundred kilometers apart while eating completely different animals. Researchers call these cultural diets. Young calves do not instinctively know what food is. They learn it. An orca born into a salmon-hunting family will hunt salmon. One born into a seal-hunting pod may never eat fish at all. The difference is not genetic, it is cultural. This discovery transformed how scientists viewed these animals. Food is not simply something an orca recognizes. It is something its family teaches it to recognize. And humans have never appeared on that menu. That realization leads to an uncomfortable question. If orcas possess the intelligence to invent new hunting techniques, why have they never invented one for us? Chapter 3. They see a different ocean. Humans experience the sea primarily through sight. Orcas do not. Long before you could ever notice an approaching whale, it has already begun constructing a three-dimensional map of everything around it. Through echolocation, the animal sends powerful clicks into the water. Each click travels outward until it strikes an object and returns as an echo, carrying astonishing amounts of information. Distance, density, movement, internal structure. Researchers have compared the process to seeing with sound, although the comparison barely captures its complexity. To an orca, the ocean is not dark. It is constantly illuminated by invisible echoes. A seal reflects one pattern, a shark another. A school of fish becomes a moving cloud. A human produces a signal unlike anything else in the marine world, not because we are mysterious, but because we do not belong there. We breathe differently. We move inefficiently. Our bodies float awkwardly. Our heartbeat, posture, and swimming patterns create an acoustic signature that no prey species has ever possessed. Long before an orca reaches visual range, it already knows you are something unusual. Not dangerous, not familiar, simply different. And for one of Earth's most intelligent predators, unfamiliarity often inspires caution rather than aggression, because every decision carries risk, even for a hunter that rules the sea. Chapter 4. The Predator That Learns. For centuries, humans believed survival belonged to the strongest. Nature tells a different story. Survival belongs to those who learn. An orca calf enters the world knowing almost nothing about the ocean it has inherited. It does not know which fish are safe. It does not know how to hunt a seal resting on drifting ice. It certainly does not know how to overpower a whale 20 times its size. It learns, not through instinct, through family. Marine biologists have watched mothers spend years teaching calves skills that cannot be explained by genetics alone. Young whales imitate adults. They practice. They fail. They try again. Some pods intentionally beats themselves for a split second to snatch seals from the shoreline before sliding back into the sea. Calves often struggle during their first attempts, watched closely by older relatives who appear to guide the lesson. Elsewhere, orcas have developed an entirely different strategy. They work together to create powerful waves that knock seals from floating ice. No single whale invents this alone. The behavior spreads through the family, becoming tradition, like a language, like culture, like history. The ocean, it turns out, contains civilizations far older than we once imagined, and every civilization inherits rules. One of those rules may simply be this: humans are not food. Chapter 5. Curiosity is not aggression. In countless encounters recorded across decades, wild orcas have approached humans. Divers have described feeling a rush of pressure before realizing an immense body had appeared beside them. Surfers have watched towering dorsal fins glide silently past their boards. Kayakers have found themselves surrounded by entire pods, moving with effortless precision. The stories sound terrifying. Most of them end the same way. The orcas leave. Researchers notice something unusual in underwater footage. Rather than charging, many orcas slow their movements near people. They tilt their bodies. They rotate one eye toward the unfamiliar visitor. Sometimes they pass within a few meters without making physical contact. To us, this feels like hesitation. To the orca, it may simply be investigation. Intelligence changes the relationship between curiosity and violence. A shark may react in the only way it can, through instinct. A test bite may be enough to determine whether an object is food. An orca does not need to guess. It observes. It compares. It remembers. Its brain is among the largest on Earth, with regions associated with social awareness and decision-making that are exceptionally developed. While scientists remain cautious about drawing direct comparisons to humans, the complexity of orca cognition is difficult to ignore. This is an animal capable of making choices, and sometimes the most remarkable choice a predator can make is restraint. Chapter 6: When the Ocean Chose Silence. One encounter has become almost legendary among marine researchers. A freediver found herself unexpectedly sharing the water with a massive orca. There was nowhere to hide, no boat close enough to reach, only open ocean. The whale approached slowly. It circled once. Then it drifted beneath her close enough that she could see scratches across its skin and the subtle movement of muscles beneath its black and white markings. For several long seconds, nothing happened. The diver expected the worst. Instead, the whale gently changed course and disappeared into the blue. It is tempting to call this kindness. Scientists avoid that conclusion. Projecting human emotions onto wild animals can distort reality. Orcas are not people wearing whale-shaped bodies. Their minds evolved under entirely different pressures. But neither are they mindless machines driven solely by instinct. The evidence points somewhere in between, a creature capable of evaluating, of recognizing novelty, of choosing not to act. And perhaps that distinction matters more than any romantic story we could invent, because in the wild, survival is rarely built on emotion. It is built on calculation. Chapter 7: A Strange Exception. There is a one detail that seems to contradict everything. Orcas have attacked humans before, not in the open ocean, in captivity. Over the past several decades, tragic events involving captive orcas have claimed the lives of experienced trainers. These events shocked the world and fundamentally changed public perception of these animals. Many people took them as proof that orcas are secretly violent. Researchers saw something different. Captive orcas live lives almost impossible to compare with those of their wild relatives. In nature, they travel dozens, sometimes more than 100 kilometers each day. They hunt. They socialize within complex family groups. They communicate continuously through sound. In captivity, those behaviors are profoundly restricted. Scientists have documented chronic stress, abnormal repetitive behaviors, damaged teeth from biting enclosure walls, and increased aggression in some captive individuals. While every incident has unique circumstances, many experts caution against treating captive behavior as a window into life in the wild. The contrast is striking. The same species, two entirely different worlds, one ruled by open oceans, the other by concrete walls. Sometimes understanding an animal requires understanding the environment that shaped its choices. And nowhere is that difference more dramatic with the orca. Chapter 8: The Predator That Could But Doesn't. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest. A deer notices you. It runs. A wolf notices you. It evaluates. An orca notices you. And something even stranger happens. It has already decided what you are long before you become aware of its presence. To humans, intelligence often means solving problems. For predators, intelligence means something different. It means avoiding unnecessary ones. Every hunt carries risk. A broken tooth can become infected. A damaged fin can make hunting impossible. A single mistake can condemn even the greatest hunter to starvation. This is why wild predators rarely attack simply because they can. Lions avoid healthy elephants. Wolves often ignore large moose. Even great white sharks frequently abandon prey that appears too dangerous or unfamiliar. From an evolutionary perspective, survival is not about taking every opportunity. It is about choosing the safest one. Humans present a terrible bargain. We are small, bony, and offer relatively little nutrition compared with the energy required to investigate us. We behave unpredictably. We carry unfamiliar scents, unusual sounds, and increasingly boats, engines, and technology that wild orcas have learned to associate with humans. To an orca, attacking a person offers almost no reward, but it introduces uncertainty. And uncertainty is one of the few things evolution teaches intelligent predators to avoid. Chapter 9. When orcas defended strangers. Then the mystery becomes even more difficult to explain. Around the world, there are documented accounts of orcas behaving in ways that seem almost impossible to categorize. In one widely reported encounter, marine biologist Nan Hauser found herself unexpectedly in the path of a large tiger shark while studying humpback whales in the Cook Islands. An enormous humpback whale repeatedly nudged her through the water, keeping her away from the shark until she reached safety. Although this was not an orca, the event forced scientists to reconsider how complex cetacean decision-making might be. Orcas have inspired similar questions. Researchers and sailors have described pods appearing to drive sharks away from vulnerable animals. Divers have watched orcas investigate humans without displaying predatory behavior. In several cases, whales lingered nearby until boats arrived before quietly disappearing beneath the surface. Scientists are careful with these stories. There is no evidence that orcas possess a human concept of heroism, nor is there evidence that they consciously seek to rescue people. But the encounters reveal something equally fascinating. Wild orcas do not seem to treat every unknown creature as a threat. Sometimes they simply watch. Sometimes they intervene for reasons we still do not understand. And sometimes they leave us wondering whether intelligence creates behaviors too complex for simple labels like friend or enemy. The ocean remembers. For much of history, humanity imagined itself standing apart from nature. We believed intelligence belonged to us. Culture belonged to us. Language belonged to us. The more scientists studied orcas, the more those assumptions began to fracture. Different populations possess distinct dialects, vocal patterns so unique that neighboring pods can immediately recognize one another. They pass hunting traditions from one generation to the next. Grandmothers continue guiding their families decades after they stop reproducing, sharing knowledge that increases the survival of younger whales. Some researchers now describe orca societies as cultures, not because they resemble ours, but because they possess their own. That realization changes the original question. Perhaps asking why orcas never attack humans is the wrong question. Perhaps the better question is, what do they think we are? Not prey, not members of their family, not competitors in any meaningful sense. Just another strange creature passing briefly through a world that has belonged to them for millions of years. The final distance. There's a tendency to romanticize wild animals, to imagine that they love us or that they fear us. Reality is usually more complicated. An orca does not owe humanity compassion. It is not making a moral decision when it swims away. Its choices are shaped by millions of years of evolution, by generations of cultural learning, and by an intelligence adapted to one of the most demanding environments on Earth.
Yet those choices leave us with an extraordinary fact. The ocean's most capable predator has encountered countless vulnerable humans. It has possessed every advantage: speed, strength, coordination, experience, and still, across the vastness of the wild ocean, deliberate fatal attacks remain astonishingly absent. Not because the orca can't, but because, for reasons still being uncovered, it almost never chooses to. The next time you see an orca rise silently from the sea, it's tempting to admire its size or its power. But perhaps those are not its most remarkable qualities. Power is common in nature. What is rare is restraint. Somewhere beneath the surface, beyond the reach of sunlight, an ancient family of hunters continue to navigate an ocean that shaped them long before the first human ever built a boat. They do not know our history. They do not speak our language. They owe us nothing. Yet every time an orca glides past a solitary swimmer and disappears into the blue without harm, it leaves behind a question that science has not fully answered. Perhaps the measure of intelligence is not how efficiently a creature can destroy another. Perhaps it's knowing when destruction serves no purpose at all. And maybe the greatest mystery of the ocean's greatest predator is not why it hunts, but why, when it encounters us, it so often chooses not to.